I walk into the courtroom, and the air is thick with something I've smelled 1,000 times before. Desperation mixed with a healthy dose of arrogance. Today's special features a contractor, Mr. Sterling, who apparently thinks he's made of gold and everyone else is made of, well, let's just say less valuable material. He's sitting there, a smug little smirk plastered on his face, looking like he just stepped off a yacht. Across from him, hunched over, is the plaintiff, a man named David Miller. David looks like he's been through the ringer, both literally and figuratively. His arm is in a sling, and his eyes carry a weariness that money can't buy. Sterling, on the other hand, is dressed to the nines, probably in a suit that costs more than David's medical bills. Mr. Sterling, I begin, my voice cutting through the hushed room like a scalpel. You're a millionaire contractor, I'm told. Building empires, are we? He leans back, that smirk widening. That's correct, Your Honor. I build quality. I employ good people. Good people, I repeat, my eyebrows inching up. And Mr. Miller here, he was one of your good people, wasn't he? Sterling waves a dismissive hand. He was an employee, an independent contractor, technically. We had a contract. Ah, a contract, I say, leaning forward, my gaze locking onto his. The magical piece of paper that absolves you of all responsibility when someone gets hurt on your watch, right? He chuckles, a dry, unpleasant sound. I'm not sure I follow, Your Honor. Don't insult my intelligence, Sterling. I've seen more contracts than you've seen construction sites. You hired Mr. Miller to do some roofing work, a tricky job on a steep roof. He falls, breaks his arm. Now he's asking for compensation for his medical bills and lost wages. And you're sitting there, laughing it off. Sterling's smugness wavers for a millisecond, but he quickly recovers. He's exaggerating. It was a minor fall, and frankly, the quality of his work was subpar. He wasn't paying attention. Oh, so it's his fault now? I counter, my voice sharpening. He's on your job site, doing your work, and he's not paying attention? Did you provide him with a safe working environment, Mr. Sterling? Did you have safety harnesses? Proper scaffolding? Or did you just point him at the roof and say, go get him, champ? He shifts in his seat. We provide the necessary equipment. He chose not to use it properly. He chose not to use it properly, I echo, letting the words hang in the air. I glance at David, who's listening intently, his jaw tight. Mr. Miller, can you tell me what happened that day? David's voice is raspy, but firm. I was on the roof, Your Honor. Mr. Sterling was supposed to have secured a section of scaffolding. It wasn't. I took a step, and it gave way. I fell about 15 feet. He holds up his injured arm. This is the result. 6 months of physical therapy, and I can't do the kind of work I used to. Sterling said it was my fault. He told me to get back to work, or he'd sue me for breaking his ladder. He said that? I turned back to Sterling, my eyes narrowed. You told an injured man who broke his arm on your property that you'd sue him for breaking a ladder? That's a new one. I shake my head. You know, Sterling, I've heard a lot of excuses in this courtroom. My dog ate my homework. The aliens made me do it, but I'll sue you for breaking my ladder. That's a real gem. A real testament to your supposed quality business practices. Sterling splutters. That's a lie. He's twisting my words. I was frustrated. He was being careless. Careless? I ask, a hint of a dangerous smile playing on my lips. Or perhaps you were careless, Sterling. Careless about safety, careless about your employees, and apparently very careless about basic human decency. I tapped my pen on the desk. Let's talk about this contractor status. You hired him as an independent contractor, yes? But did you provide him with a workspace? Did you direct his work? Did you have the right to tell him when and how to do the job? He's an expert. He knows how to roof, Sterling mutters, trying to regain some control. An expert who's now looking at mounting medical bills because your scaffolding wasn't secured. Funny that, an expert wouldn't usually fall off a roof because of faulty equipment, would they? Unless, of course, the expert was put in a position where faulty equipment was the only option. Now, Mr. Miller, you said you incurred about $15,000 in medical expenses. Is that accurate? David nods. Yes, Your Honor, and I lost about $20,000 in wages because I can't work at my usual capacity. $35,000? I say, doing the math, plus pain and suffering. Now, Mr. Sterling, you seem to think this is a joke. You find it amusing that a man broke his arm while working for you. You think he's lying about the costs? You think it's all his fault. That tells me everything I need to know about your character. Sterling opens his mouth, but I cut him off. Save it. I'm not interested in your self-serving pronouncements. I'm interested in the facts. The fact is, an accident happened on your property. The fact is, Mr. Miller was injured. The fact is, you provided the materials, the site, and the direction for the work. And the fact is, you failed to ensure a safe working environment. I turn my attention back to David. Mr. Miller, you have a strong case. Mr. Sterling's attempt to shift blame and his frankly appalling attitude are not going to win him any points with me. He thinks he can just laugh this off, doesn't he? He thinks his money makes him untouchable. I look directly at Sterling, my eyes piercing. Well, Mr. Sterling, let me tell you something. Money doesn't buy you immunity from common sense, and it certainly doesn't buy you a pass on basic human responsibility. You're not just a contractor, you're an employer. And when you put someone in harm's way, you pay for it. It's that simple. I pick up the file, flipping through it with deliberate slowness. The silence in the courtroom is deafening. Sterling is no longer smirking. He looks uncomfortable. Good. He should be. The evidence here, I continue, my voice calm but with an undercurrent of steel, clearly shows negligence on your part, Mr. Sterling. The unsecured scaffolding, the lack of safety protocols, your subsequent dismissal of Mr. Miller's injury and your threat to sue him, it all paints a very clear picture. A picture of a man who cuts corners, who prioritizes profit over people, and who has a deeply flawed understanding of his obligations. I close the file with a decisive snap. You may build buildings, Mr. Sterling, but you can't build a defense against the truth. And the truth is, you owe Mr. Miller for his injuries and his lost income. You treated him like a number, like an easily disposable cog in your profit machine. Well, today, that cog is fighting back. And I, for one, am going to ensure he's compensated for the damage you've inflicted. Sterling finally looks genuinely unnerved. The arrogance has completely drained from his face, replaced by a dawning realization that he's in for more than just a mild inconvenience. He thought he could get away with it. He thought his wealth would shield him. He was wrong. So very, very wrong. Now, I say, my voice taking on that familiar final tone, let's talk about the amount. Mr. Miller's medical bills are $15,000. His lost wages are $20,000. That's $35,000. And frankly, considering your egregious behavior, Mr. Sterling, I think we need to add a substantial amount for punitive damages. You need to learn that actions have consequences, especially when those actions result in serious injury to another human being. I look at Sterling, and for the first time, he meets my gaze without that condescending smirk. He looks like a little boy who's just been caught with his hand in the cookie jar. So, Mr. Sterling, I continue, the words dripping with a justice he clearly didn't anticipate. You think this is funny? You think laughing at an injured worker is a good business strategy? Well, prepare to laugh all the way to the bank to make a very substantial withdrawal, because I'm about to make you pay, and pay dearly. You see, Sterling, I say, leaning back slightly, letting the weight of my words settle in the courtroom, it's not just about the money, it's about principle. It's about holding people accountable. You treated Mr. Miller like he was a piece of disposable equipment, something to be used and then discarded when it broke. But he's a human being. He has a family, bills to pay, and a life that you've disrupted with your negligence. I tap my pen on the file, the sound sharp and precise. Your assertion that he was subpar and not paying attention is nothing but a flimsy attempt to deflect responsibility. If the scaffolding wasn't secured, then the work environment was inherently unsafe. Period. Your independent contractor status is a convenient shield you try to hide behind, but it doesn't absolve you of the duty to provide a safe place to work. It's common sense, Sterling, something you seem to be sorely lacking He opens his mouth to protest, but I hold up a hand. Don't. Save your breath. Your protests are as hollow as your commitment to safety. I've heard it all before. He signed the contract. It was his decision. I wasn't there. Excuses. Weak, transparent excuses. You were the contractor. You were in charge. And you failed. Miserably. I turn my gaze to David Miller, offering him a small, reassuring nod. He's listening intently, his shoulders no longer quite so hunched. There's a flicker of hope in his eyes, a stark contrast to the despair I saw when he first walked in. Mr. Miller, you acted in good faith. You trusted your employer to provide you with a safe environment. That trust was betrayed. And for that betrayal, Mr. Sterling will be held responsible. I look back at Sterling, my voice hardening. You bragged about your wealth, about your successful business. But a true success isn't just measured in dollars. It's measured in integrity, in the way you treat your workers, in the safety of your sites. And by those measures, Mr. Sterling, you are a spectacular failure. You built your empire on shaky foundations, and today, those foundations are starting to crumble. I pick up my gavel, my eyes fixed on Sterling. You thought you could just brush this off, didn't you? Thought a quick dismissal and a condescending attitude would make it all go away? You believed your money and your status would protect you. But you're in my courtroom now. And here, the only currency that matters is truth and justice. And you're bankrupt on both counts. The tension in the room is palpable. Sterling is sweating now. The expensive suit seems to be suffocating him. He looks like he's realizing that his carefully constructed facade is about to be dismantled piece by piece. The total for medical expenses and lost wages comes to $35,000. I state clearly, this is a tangible, verifiable loss. Now, regarding damages for pain and suffering, and for your utter lack of remorse, Mr. Sterling, I'm going to add a significant amount. You have demonstrated a callous disregard for Mr. Miller's well-being. You have shown a disturbing lack of empathy. And you have acted with a blatant arrogance that is frankly offensive. I pause for dramatic effect, letting the weight of my words sink in. A man breaks his arm because your scaffolding was not secured. He faces months of pain, therapy, and financial hardship. And your response is to mock him and threaten him? That's not just bad business, Sterling. That's morally reprehensible. You need to understand that your actions have real-world consequences, and those consequences are about to hit your bottom line hard. I bring the gavel down with a resounding crack. Therefore, based on the evidence presented, the testimony, and Mr. Sterling's appalling demeanor and clear negligence, I find in favor of the plaintiff, David Miller. Sterling visibly flinches. Mr. Sterling, you are ordered to pay Mr. David Miller the sum of $35,000 for his medical expenses and lost wages. In addition, I am awarding Mr. Miller $40,000 for pain, suffering, and emotional distress, recognizing the significant impact this incident has had on his life and your egregious conduct throughout this process. This brings the total award to $75,000. I see a look of sheer disbelief on Sterling's face. He's clearly not used to being told no, let alone being ordered to pay such a sum. Good. Let him feel the sting of his own negligence. Furthermore, I add, my voice taking on a more cautionary tone, I strongly suggest, Mr. Sterling, that you review your safety protocols immediately. Invest in proper equipment, train your employees, and learn some basic respect for the people who put food on your table. Because if you ever find yourself back in this courtroom for a similar offense, the amount will be considerably higher and the lesson will be even more painful. I look at David Miller. Mr. Miller, I hope this judgment brings you some measure of peace and allows you to focus on your recovery. You deserve it. The courtroom begins to stir. Sterling remains frozen, his face a mask of shock, and perhaps a grudging understanding that he just got schooled. He thought he was above the law, above accountability. He was wrong. This isn't a game. It's about people's lives and livelihoods. And when people like Sterling try to exploit or harm others, they're going to face the consequences. They're going to face me. And I don't play around. I stand up, signifying the end of the proceedings. The case of Miller v. Sterling is closed. Justice, in my estimation, has been served. Sterling's smugness has been replaced by a grim realization, and David Miller, though still injured, has a chance to rebuild. That's what this job is all about. As the courtroom buzzes with the aftermath of the verdict, I watch Sterling. He's still sitting there, looking like he's just been punched in the gut. The smugness is gone, replaced by a pale, clammy fear. Good. Let him feel the heat. Let him understand that his money isn't a magic wand that can erase consequences. He built his empire on the backs of people like David Miller, and now he's going to have to pay to fix what his negligence broke. I can see him whispering to his lawyer, a man who now looks as uncomfortable as his client. They're probably calculating how much this is going to set him back. It's not just the $75,000, though that's a hefty sum for anyone, let alone a man who's now facing significant medical bills and potentially a career change. It's the reputation damage, the public humiliation, and the stark reminder that even millionaires aren't above the law. I make my way towards the bench, my mind already moving on to the next case. But before I leave, I can't resist a final glance at Sterling. He's trying to regain some semblance of composure, straightening his tie, attempting to project an air of control he clearly doesn't possess at this moment. It's pathetic, really. He thought he was invincible, that his wealth insulated him from the messiness of human error and responsibility. He was wrong. Mr. Sterling, I say, my voice carrying clearly across the now quieter room. He snaps his head up, startled. You thought you could get away with this, didn't you? You thought you could just dismiss a man's injury with a wave of your hand and a threat? Well, let me tell you something. The world doesn't work that way. Not in my courtroom, anyway. I walk a few steps closer, my gaze unwavering. You hired Mr. Miller. You directed his work. You provided the site. And you failed to ensure his safety. That's not a complex legal argument. That's basic common sense. You gambled with his well-being, and you lost. Now you pay. And I hope this experience teaches you a valuable lesson about integrity and responsibility. Because frankly, your current attitude suggests you're in dire need of one. He looks down, unable to meet my eyes. That's the moment I know he's truly understood. The arrogance is shattered, replaced by the sobering reality of his own failings. This isn't about punishing you for being wealthy, Sterling, I continue, my tone softening just a fraction, though the steel remains. It's about making sure that when someone acts negligently and causes harm, they understand the gravity of their actions. It's about ensuring that people like Mr. Miller, who work hard and get injured through no fault of their own, aren't left to suffer in silence while those responsible get away scot-tangent-free. Your wealth doesn't make you exempt from that principle. It makes you more accountable because you have the resources to do better. And you didn't. I give a small, almost imperceptible nod. This case is concluded. Mr. Miller, you are free to go. I trust you will use this settlement to get the best care possible and to rebuild your life. David Miller nods, a genuine smile finally gracing his face. He looks lighter, unburdened. It's a good feeling to see that. It's why I do this. Sterling, on the other hand, is still rooted to his spot, his lawyer hovering nearby, no doubt already devising strategies to appeal, or at least minimize the damage. But I've seen this play out before. The initial shock, the frantic legal maneuvering, most of the time the verdict stands. Because the truth, as I see it, is usually pretty straightforward. As I gather my papers, I cast one last look at Sterling. He's still staring at the floor, the weight of the judgment clearly bearing down on him. He thought he was above it all. He thought his money made him untouchable. He was mistaken. In my courtroom, everyone is accountable. And sometimes, the most satisfying part of my job is watching arrogance crumble under the weight of undeniable truth and a well-deserved verdict. It's a reminder that justice, while sometimes slow, is relentless. And for men like Sterling, it can be a very, very expensive lesson.